Greetings, trombonists at large. I am the Vagrant Trombone, here today to talk to you about something that is not necessarily trombone related. It is as a trombonist, but not necessarily to the trombone. It's about a new pen that I acquired recently, and it brought up a lot of fond memories for me, so I just thought I would share a little story. Well, this story begins a very long time ago, back in the dawn of time, the mid-70s, when I was starting to learn how to play the trombone, and I played a little piano already, but I was learning how to play the trombone at school, and there were times where I wanted to write stuff out. One of the things that I discovered very early on was I needed more skills. And through that, I went on a bit of a crazy journey, learning how to write, how to sketch, how to copy, how to read arrangers' scores, and how to write this all out and find different things I needed to be able to accomplish those different tasks. And when I was in college, my copy skills got pretty good, and I found myself not only copying stuff for me and my friends and for students, most importantly, I also found the opportunity to once in a while be able to copy out some music for somebody who might be taking a composition class. I'm starting to get back into it and enjoy being able to do a little music writing again, a music copying, just for fun. And I thought I would just explain that journey with you. So let's go over and take a look at that, shall we? But when I first started sketching out pieces of music for myself or to play with friends, I first used, like we all do, and I still do, a regular old pencil. So, pencils, they work fine. They are easy to point. They're easy to make sure you're getting your note in the right place. But the problem with a pencil like this is you also need one of these accessories. And you need them quite a lot. And they unfortunately make a mess on the music, and then that can cause a problem. So I wanted to get away from using the regular standard pencil, and so I went to the next logical conclusion: mechanical pencil. I chose them to get a mechanical pencil that has a slightly longer tip on it, because sometimes I want to use a square or a ruler, and when I'm using these two items, it can make it difficult with some of the mechanical pencils that they have where they tip where the tip isn't all the way to the bottom. And these write great too. So with the second sample, you can see once again, just like the first pencil, you get a nice accurate point. You get a nice place that you can always make sure that the pencil is going to be. And with a mechanical pencil, another advantage is that you've always got a sharp lead. You just have to extend it. This wasn't the be-all end-all of pencils. Now this is a technical pencil. This is a mechanical technical pencil. One of the things I really like about it is it's retractable. So I can carry it in my pocket and it doesn't make a mess in my pocket. Now I did start carrying a pocket protector, but still I didn't want all that graphite drawing on the inside of my pocket protector messing things up. These are great. These come in different sizes, and the leads are inexpensive. And I do like using these technical mechanical pencils. These technical pencils write really well, and I like them a lot. It is great that they are retractable, and underneath the end of the pencil there's an eraser hidden in there where that's where you feed more leads into the pencil. And this pencil is very accurate. I can point it very well. It works great with a ruler. but it's still a pencil. For sketching, it's great because I can do takedowns and sketches with it, and I can erase and change things, and erasing is a real advantage, but it's still a pencil. So when I copy out my parts, if I copy out the music, at certain angles, the lead disappears. You can't see it. Another issue is that it smudges over time, and in this day and age I can take it to a photocopier and I can photocopy the parts, but sometimes the lead doesn't really show up that well in a photocopy. So pencils, as useful as they are, don't really quite fit the bill. We need to go to ink. Now when I first started writing with ink, I went to the old standby that everyone goes to, the ballpoint pen. The ballpoint pen is, again, one of the tools. It's just a standard tool. They're everywhere. And they work great. Once again, I get a very good defined line. I can know exactly where I'm going to be writing at. And one of the things I liked about using multicolored inks, like a blue ink on black paper if I was copying, was that when I went to photocopy, it all turns black. But when I was writing it out, I could see what the marks were that I put on the paper as opposed to the marks that were already on the page. So with a ballpoint pen, I get precise positioning of where I want to put the pen on the paper so I can see where the dots are going to be and I know my lines. And I get nice contrast in color. When it's outside, it's easy to see. And these are all good things about the ballpoint pen. But one of the problems with a ballpoint pen is with a regular pencil. With a pencil for sketching, I don't mind if all the lines are the same size. But when I'm copying music, I want it to look a little nicer than just chicken scratch that I get with a ballpoint pen. This is a dip pen. It has a nib holder and the nib. It's a dip pen because you literally have to dip it into the ink. This is a music nib. A music nib has 2 feeds or 3 blades that are rather far apart. It's a little too far apart for this music. I have a smaller nib someplace, but I don't know where it is. This is a music nib, and it's a dip pen. So you've got to open up your ink. And just as I was saying, you dip it in. Then you have to take the excess, remove the excess off the side, and then you're pretty much ready to go. Now, dip pens work great. I really like the dip pen. I got some of my nicest looking marks that I've written with dip pen. The problem with the dip pen is, as you can see, I started running out of ink after basically one measure. Now I can train this pen so that this nib, so that it will write longer, but I'm still constantly having to go back to the inkwell to recharge the nib so that I can keep writing. And being a bear of little brain, sometimes I would stop in the middle of a measure because I needed to, and I would forget to put the next rest. So one of the ways I got around that was by using Mr. Mechanical Pencil, and I would write the notes in the measure. I would sketch the notes onto the paper, and then I would trace over them with the dip pen. But that meant I was copying everything out twice. That took a long time. And so I needed to find yet a better option than a music nib for a dip pen. That need led me to this. This is a dip pen, looks like a dip pen, but it's actually a fountain pen. This pen has a calligraphy nib on it and a type of nib. Sometimes they call this nib an italics nib. They don't make musical nibs or a music nib for this type of pen, but this pen actually has a little reservoir cartridge that you can change out. And so when the pen runs dry, I just change out that little cartridge, and this pen works very well. So as you can see, this pen writes pretty well. I can see where the nib is going to be laying down the ink very well so that I can get accurate placement of my notes. But the problem, and I get a good variation in line, just as I do with the calligraphy point or the music nib for my dip pen. But the problem with this pen is for sketching or doing other things, it's not very quick. So for sketching, when I wanted to sketch with ink, I still needed to use the old tried and true, my fountain pen. This is a fountain pen that I've had since I was pretty much in high school. And for sketching, it works great. It's very quick to use. I can write out things very fast. But as you can see, the problem is I have that same issue that I had with the other pens, with the pencils, is that I lose my line variation. So I wanted to be able to do something more than I could do with just your standard fountain pen. So I got this pen. This pen is slightly different. This pen is called a Fuda nib pen. It has a bent nib. And it's great because not only can I make wide lines, but if I tilt the pen, I can make narrow lines. And I can also draw lines down or thick lines down, and all I have to do is tilt the pen. I don't have to turn my hand as much. So this pen was really an advantage. Lays down a nice wet line. Very easy to see. And if I want to make a note head, I can make my note heads nice and big. But one of the things that you'll note with this pen is that it's a little out of control. Sometimes it's a little hard to control exactly how big my note head is going to be, what the shape is going to be. And so it can be a little hard to control the character of the ink. I finally discovered what I felt was going to be the be-all end-all of music copying. I found a flex nib fountain pen. These have been around since the 30s, but you know, I was a dumb kid. I didn't know that. And the great thing about the flex nib is this is really a calligraphy pen, if I were to show you. But and the flex is really quite awesome. I can get everything I've been wanting. I can get the variation of line. I can get very fine lines. I can get a nice heavy lay down of ink. Now with this pen I do have to turn it to get my line to go where I want it to. But as you can see, pretty easy to use. You see we're railroading a little bit at the end there. However, there was one big issue that came about with the ballpoint and all of the fountain style pens. Introducing water. As you can see, the big problem with any kind of fountain pen or ballpoint pen ink is that when you expose it to water, it smudges. And that wouldn't be such a big deal if it wasn't trombone players I was writing music for. Because trombone players are notorious for dribbling and drabbling all over their music. I don't want this happening to my parts. Now, it is true I can photocopy the parts and then archive those parts. And then I have the photocopies and they can dribble and drabble all they want on those. But I don't want this happening to my archived parts in case anything were to happen to them. Not only that, but I'm sloppy sometimes. I spill my coffee or whatever, and I don't want this happening. But if you notice, this one's smearing, this one's smearing, this one's smearing. This one not so much. I'll get to that in a minute. But this one, you'll notice, is perfectly fine. That was done with the dip pen. And the reason why the dip pen doesn't smear is because it uses India ink. When it dries very hard and it dries waterproof. The problem is, with a fountain pen, when we have a fountain pen, we've got a different situation going on. We've got a reservoir that holds the ink inside the pen and then delivers it through capillaries down what's called the feed, and that sends the ink down through the nib, and we're able to write with the pen. The problem with India ink is it is a varnish, and it'll shellac, and it'll dry inside the feed of the pen where there are very small openings, vents, and it will ruin the pen, and the pen won't work anymore. So I was now stuck with another problem. But then into this world came something that saved me, at least for a short time, and that was the good old Sharpie. Now the Sharpie has a nice, you can get them with the felt end or you can get them with a hard end, and the hard end of that Sharpie is great because using that tip I can get very accurate placement of my note heads. And here, I forgot my time signature. As you can see, it's very easy to write with. But once again, I lose that advantage of line variation. But I don't have any smudging issues. The problem with a Sharpie, I discovered, was that the ink isn't very easy to see outside when I was copying parts, because it would kind of look a little bluish or even reflect the light. Once again, this India ink was the champ. It looks really solid, really good. It's got a bit of a sheen on it, and it's very contrasty and easy to read. So the Sharpie, even though it worked really well, wasn't what was going to keep me going. And because of this pencil being a technical pencil, I discovered the technical pen. Now the technical pen is a different kind of a beast. It also is an ink pen that uses a cartridge in the barrel. But the big difference with this cartridge is that because of the feed system of this pen, it has a little tube with a pin that goes down the center, and that causes the ink to draw out. These need a heavier, thicker ink, and that heavier, thicker ink solution, they're able to make more permanent inks. So this ink is really great. It always runs really well, and I love these pens because for sketching, man, they're the living end. They're fast, they're contrasty, the ink dries in a way that is easy for my eyes to see. And the pens, they come in different nib sizes, so those nib sizes make it really easy for me to be able to have different pens of different widths, as well as being able to just have multiples of the same nib. So when this one dries up, I just get another pen and start using it. And I found that these technical pens are probably the best pen for me for most of what I do. But there's still one more option. The good old fountain pen. Because one of the things that I've discovered recently is permanent fountain pen ink. This stuff works really well. This is carbon ink, and it's made by Platinum. This ink is a permanent black ink, and it's got a great sheen. That's what's in this pen. That's why this didn't really get that messed up, because this pen is using that ink. So you can see that I still get good line. The only problem with this pen is it doesn't really like this ink very well, so my feed slows down quite a bit, and sometimes it's hard for me to get the pen to keep up. I've got to slow down sometime with my writing because I can't, the pen doesn't want to keep up with the speed, because it's a calligraphy pen. It's meant for doing calligraphy. So, as a calligraphy pen, it works really well. Sometimes for music writing, it's not, the feed slows down too much. So I did order a new pen with a faster feed, and I'm going to see if that works well. But if I can get that carbon ink to work in this pen, I think this will be the pen that I do most of my copying with. Now, for most of my copying, do I go through all this? No, I don't. I use my computer. My computer prints out my score, and then I can extract all the parts out of my score, and I don't have to do any of this. But I just like seeing the handwritten manuscript. So on some of the things that I write for myself or my students, I still take the time to write them out by hand just because I enjoy it. So my favorite pens: the good old mechanical pencil, my dip pen, my fountain pen, and my other fountain pen with the flex nib, and my Isograph pen. These are the 4 instruments that I use to make music without a trombone. Well, I hope you found that interesting. A little bit of a journey there with my whole pens and pencil collection. And you might wonder how that all got started. It was because I bought that new calligraphy pen. But it really was because I recently was, with the whole pandemonium going on, I was cleaning out some stuff and I found this box of old pens, and it kind of brought back fond memories. And so I just thought I would share that here with you all today. And I still do use my rOtring Isographs and my fountain pens because I do stuff like this. and I find it to be relaxing and enjoyable. So, there's more that you can do with your music nib pen than just writing music. You can write letters to family and friends or take up a little art. It's fun. So, I hope you found this interesting. And again, playing the music isn't just about being a player. You're never just a sideman. You have to know a little bit about a lot of different things, and different skills come in handy for different moments in your life. So I hope you enjoy the stuff that you're doing in yours, and if I come up with something new, maybe I'll share it with you too. So until then,